Thank you for joining our session today, 4 strategies for creating a no-fail employee experience. My name is Kimberly Pelletier, and I'm the head of customer success at WorkGrid. And joining me today is Beth Houlis, Director of Innovation and Communication from RiverStone, an organization that's making some pretty amazing strides when it comes to transforming the digital employee experience for their staff. We don't have a ton of time today, so let's jump right into this. So to start with, I'll be talking about how we build a digital experience that supports employees' long-term success. Then Beth will take over and share her experiences on how RiverStone is making their employee experience vision a reality by putting their employees' needs first. So what exactly is the starting point for creating an effective digital workplace? It's a question that plagues organizations and technology companies alike as they try to figure out how to create an experience that supports long-term success for both the employees and the business. A puzzle made even more challenging by the global pandemic that we're all in the midst of. Thankfully, while the pandemic might have complicated lots of things and likely changed the way we work forever, the answer to where an effective digital workplace begins is the same as it's always been. Now and forever, the key to an effective digital workplace is a relentless focus on employees, solving their pain points as they go about their work, giving them the intelligent tools they need to be effective, and helping them simplify their workday so they can focus on meaningful work that's the hallmark of a good employee experience. So how do we make that happen? We have some guidance that's proven to be very successful for organizations we've worked with who have been on a quest to create an employee-focused digital experience. So let's take a look at these in a little more depth. As I've mentioned, a focus on employees is the most important thing organizations can do if they want to create effective, resilient digital experiences that are built for long-term success and can withstand changes like we're seeing in today with the pandemic. So how do you do that? You can start by first making sure that you understand what employees need, what matters most to them as they do their jobs. Creating personas and conducting journey mapping exercises is a great way to accomplish these kinds of insights so you can identify the areas that you need to focus on for improvement. You can then use this information to address the needs of employees, whether that's a better method of communication, an easier way to find information, simplified access to core enterprise systems, whatever it is. Remember, this isn't about delivering services. It's about creating experiences that meet employees' needs. So focus on helping them accomplish what they need to do in less time and simplifying their overall workday. Next, organizations should strive to break down silos that have historically driven all business decisions. Each department does a great job of implementing solutions that meet their needs, but without an overarching employee experience strategy, the employees have a very siloed experience. For example, HR might start focusing on employee experience by revamping the onboarding process, and rightfully so. It's one of the first opportunities that a business has to create a positive experience. Separately, IT might be focusing on rolling out a great chatbot for its service center. And maybe finance is rolling out a new mobile expense tool to make submitting expenses easier. All of these things are good improvements. But if they require employees to deal with different systems and you have different user experiences, then the overall experience is fragmented and frustrating. A great employee experience can't be created in a vacuum. It must be considered holistically across the business. So assign formal ownership of the initiative and make sure that the owner involves all important stakeholders so that a shared vision can be created for the kind of experience you want to build for your workforce. You still have multiple stakeholders or even a steering committee, but the formal ownership, whether it's an individual such as an employee experience officer, innovation director, or product owner, should work directly with the right stakeholders and employees and other teams across the enterprise to ensure that the employee experience and digital workplace vision is delivered and represented equally across all stakeholders. Having formal ownership will be crucial to have someone or a team own a roadmap, understand each stakeholder's priorities, understand employees' needs, collect user feedback, and so on. The ownership team becomes the glue that binds together the separate parts of the employee experience. Future-proofing the employee experience is also an important consideration. Creating a powerful employee experience is never one and done. You're always going to need to refine it along the way. So there are definitely some right and wrong decisions that you can make about specific technologies and your overall approach that can impact your long-term success. For example, when it comes to simplifying the workday for employees, it's a good idea to leverage microservices and API-driven technology that can aggregate information from your existing systems, abstracting only the information employees need to know or take action on, which insulates them from the complexity of the backend system. Experience layer technology is a great example of that, giving employees a seamless, simplified front door to the digital workplace that helps them be effective whenever it's convenient for them. An area where many organizations get off track, however, is when they put all of their employee experience eggs into the basket of their large enterprise systems, such as their HCM, ITSM, etc. It sounds like a great idea to do that, but unfortunately, it is a mistake that will inhibit your ability to switch out backend systems based on the needs of the organization. And most of all, you shouldn't be afraid to think big and think broadly. Choose a platform that supports reaching your goals. Adopt agile methodology and an iterative approach that seeks to make continuous, gradual improvements rather than big changes that can take a long time to deliver and force employees to shift their way of working in dramatic ways. I mentioned this earlier, but delivering the kind of intelligent, personalized, and contextual digital experience your employees expect and deserve isn't a one and done initiative. It's a process of gradual improvement that needs continuous nurturing if it's going to have a positive long-term effect. So check in with your employees often, involve them in the process. Ask them how they're doing, find out what they need, and then when you take steps to address their feedback, communicate with them and let them know you did. Effective communication is a two-way street, so the more employees feel they're being heard, the more they're willing to tell you what they need to be happy and productive. It's a positive feedback loop that will pay dividends for many years to come. So now that we've covered the fundamentals of what it takes to create a digital experience that supports employees' success, let's talk to a company that's doing a great job of putting these principles into action to transform their own employee experience. Hey, Beth. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kim. I'm really glad to be taking part with you here today. So I'm Beth Houlis. I'm the Director of Innovation and Communications at RiverStone, and I've been leading the charge for developing a new digital hub for RiverStone employees. So to tell you a little bit about our story and the journey that we're on, it's helpful to take a step back in time. So think back for a moment to 2007, maybe 2006. Where you were and what you were doing. I know because it popped up on my Facebook feed the other day that I was asking people for recommendations about what BlackBerry I should buy. So things were a little bit different. So thinking about what life was like in the corporate world, and at the time I was working at Liberty Mutual, we were still using shared drives to share files, and we had a pretty antiquated digital employee experience. So SharePoint wasn't a thing back then, and we were doing things in a much different way. So fast forward again in time to 2018, when I left Liberty Mutual and came to work at RiverStone to take on the role of Director of Innovation. So when I got to RiverStone, it was really like stepping back in time because RiverStone still uses shared drive, is on SharePoint 2013 for its intranet, and really hasn't taken advantage of some of the modern technology we have today that can improve an employee's experience. So as I was taking my new role, getting to know the company, getting to know the people, I had to stop for a minute and think, well, before we can really focus on innovation, we have to think about the employee digital experience, because the lack of a seamless digital experience was causing a lot of friction at the company. So we thought about how can we make the people's lives a little bit easier, and it brought us to this concept of a digital hub. And as you'll see, WorkGrid plays a really important part in our digital hub. So how are we making it happen? First thing I'll say is that this is a journey. This is not something that happens overnight, and it's important to have a lot of patience when you're thinking about transforming your company's digital experience. There will be bumps in the road, but that's okay. That's all part of the learning journey, and it's really important to have an open mind and to listen to your employees, listen to stakeholders, and listen to your colleagues all along the way. So I'll share a few things that are working well for us, as well as a few lessons that we've learned. And I should also note that we're really in the middle of our digital transformation journey. So RiverStone is in the process of moving from shared drives and on-premise storage to cloud-native applications and a cloud-first approach. So the company is undergoing a lot of change. And the other thing to know is that the company has experienced some failed technology implementations in the past. And I only note that because it's important to remember that and take that into account when you're introducing any kind of additional technology change. So what did we do first? The first thing we did was to take a step back and think about, well, what do we want to create in the first place, and how can we form partnerships with our stakeholders? And that, you could call that buy-in. I like partnership a little bit better because it means that we're in it together. So we had to think about what was our vision in the first place, and that was to create a digital hub that was a central gathering place for all things RiverStone. So one place employees can come to do the things they need in their work life. We wanted to reduce clicks. We wanted to reduce friction, and we wanted to take time away from those non-value added tasks so that employees can spend time doing the things that are important to them, which is their job and the value they bring to the company. So we needed to centralize things. We needed to think about the digital employee experience from a mobile perspective. And to do that, we needed to work with people across the company. And we're still kind of doing that and developing those relationships. Now, I mentioned earlier that RiverStone has had mixed experiences with some technology implementation in the past. Because of that, it's important that we don't make a big deal out of this. So sometimes it's tempting to introduce a new piece of technology with a big splash. We're deliberately doing the opposite with our project. We're introducing new features and functionality in an incremental way that makes people's lives easier. We don't want to make a big deal out of this. At the end of the day, nobody should, remember a big launch. They should just remember that they all of a sudden started getting these new capabilities that would lighten their workload and make their lives easier. The second thing we've done is really focus on employees. When we started the Digital Hub project, we had some voices that said, well, we know what to build already. You don't need to spend time doing user research. And we took a hard line on that and said, no, we actually do need to spend the time to do this research. So we did user research before we had drawn our first prototype or come up with our first idea of what a digital hub could be. So we spent a lot of time with employees at the company learning about what works well for them today and what could be improved. On the screen, you'll see some of the things we learned, but one of the interesting challenges we have at RiverStone, and it's a challenge and really an opportunity as well, is that for folks who have been at the company for a long time, they've never experienced a modern intranet. So it's a little bit like we can't ask them what they want because they don't necessarily have a point for comparison. So it was really important with our user research to be able to read between the lines and identify those opportunities to delight our employees. Another thing that's really important to us is streamlining systems. So right now, and this might be a familiar story to those of you who are watching, but right now it takes multiple clicks to get into the key core HR systems and other systems that employees use to manage their work lives. So think about how you get to your pay slip. Think about how do you get to your time off balance and how do you approve expense reports. Right now, each one of those is a different system that you have to click into separately and then have a couple more clicks to get the task done that you're trying to do. So one of our big goals with Digital Hub and with the WorkGrid Digital Assistant is to streamline those jobs. And I can just share that the prototypes that we've showed to our employees where we share the vision, hey, you can check your time off balance with one click. You can approve an expense with one click. And you can see your payslip without having to go into the source system. every single person who's seen it has been very excited about it. So we are extremely excited about the idea of being able to streamline some of these core systems that can have a clunky user experience. The nice thing about creating a digital hub is that you create an interaction layer between your employees and the source systems. The source systems don't change. You simply bring a better user experience, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to make people's lives easier and give them that delightful, more consumer-like user experience. Now, I know at our company, our HR department is thinking about changing some of those back-end systems in the next couple of years. And our digital hub is going to make that easier because they'll be able to switch out systems behind the scenes, and the employee experience from the digital hub won't change all that much. So it'll be less of a change for our employees, which is a really appealing prospect. So as I've told you a little bit about where we want to start with the digital hub, but I want to show you one of our future visions, which is to bring things like charitable giving to the digital hub. And you can see on this mobile prototype, pay date, time off, and then RiverStone Cares. So charitable giving is really important to employees at RiverStone. So the folks at WorkGrid were kind enough to mock up this vision of what a charitable giving app could look like. And that's something that we want to build in the future on our digital hub platform. So you can see that you can choose how often do you want to give, when do you want to give, and how much. And RiverStone has an extremely generous charitable giving match, and we're excited about the opportunity to make that process a little bit easier for folks. I mentioned this a little bit in the beginning, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is to go slow and steady and pay attention to change management. Change is really hard for people, and especially if you think about what people are going through right now, it's more important than ever to pay attention to change management and what your audience, your employees, might be thinking and feeling. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. Will children go back to school? Are they going back part-time? Are they going back full-time? Do I have my kids in the house while I'm trying to work? Is my office going to reopen again? When will it reopen again? There's a lot going on in the world around us. So it's really important when we're introducing additional change into the workplace that we do it in a way that meets people where they are today. And how do we figure out where they are? Well, we talk to them pretty constantly. We show them where we're at. We ask them what's working, what's not working, how could we make this better? And we incorporate that into our sprints as we're building the digital hub. And to ensure we're focusing on what matters most and not breaking things throughout the entire journey, we are continuing our user research, and we're also not necessarily shutting down the old ways of doing things right away. We want to make sure that we're not causing more disruption than we have to. Our one goal is to make people's lives easier, and that means not breaking things as we go along. So I know for me personally, a slow and steady approach can sometimes be frustrating. I want to get all these capabilities out there as quickly as possible. When I worked at Liberty Mutual, I was able to experience some of these features. I think we called it My Hub, but it is the same concept and product as WorkGrid. And so I know what lies in store for RiverStone. I'm so excited to bring it to a new company, but I also have to be patient, even though I want to do it as quickly as possible. It will only be effective if we have our stakeholders right there beside us and also our employees with us on the journey. So if I sum things up, be employee-centric. Don't boil the ocean. Really focus on the things in your company's digital experience that are going to have the most impact on your employees. That might be making expense reports easier, or that might be making time off or payslip experiences easier. If those are the most important three things, start there and everything else put on the backlog, and it's okay to wait. Plan for the long term. So while you don't want to boil the ocean, it's also important to know where you want to go in the future. So make sure you have a vision. I showed you the vision for a charitable giving app that we would like to do. That might not come right away, but we know it's something we want to get to down the road.
Thank you, Beth, for sharing your insights on how you're approaching the digital workplace transformation. You and your team have done an incredible job leading the way to create a modern digital experience. With the immense breadth of what you're undertaking, it can feel overwhelming. So it's great to hear about your agile approach to deliver value for employees. Thank you for having me.